We quarantined humans because we feared their violent nature, a Federation elder admitted during the Earth integration ceremony. We never understood that same nature would make them our greatest defenders. Some Min Choi's first address to the Federation Council became historic. Humans never lost our predator nature because deep in our hearts, we knew the galaxy might need protectors one day. We kept our strength not to conquer, but to defend. Not to destroy, but to preserve. The transformation was complete. Humanity's reputation shifted from dangerous killers to trusted protectors, the very qualities that had led to their quarantine. Their strength, their fighting spirit, their predatory instincts had saved galactic civilization. By 2165, the combined Human Federation civilization had entered a new golden age. They maintained their military readiness while pursuing peace, understanding that true strength lay not in the absence of violence, but in the wisdom to know when to fight and when to extend a helping hand. "Sir, the defense shields are useless." His junior officer's voice cracked with panic. They're just passing through them like they're not even there. The main screen showed dark, shifting masses moving across the colony's surface. Where they passed, nothing remained. The parasites had emerged from deep space 3 days ago, their origin unknown. They appeared as black, writhing clouds that could solidify at will. The Federation's advanced technology, built for peace and prosperity, proved worthless against these creatures dubbed Void Eaters by the terrified colonists. Hejin watched the feed from his flagship, the Starlight Guardian. His people, evolved beyond violence for millennia, had no concept of how to fight back. The colony's inhabitants could only run and hide, their peaceful nature betraying them in this moment of crisis. Another breach reported in Sector 7, reported his communications officer. The evacuation ships, they're not going to make it in time. Hejin's hands gripped the command rail until his knuckles turned white. The Void Eaters moved with terrible purpose, consuming everything in their path. Buildings, vehicles, plants, and people. The Federation's energy weapons passed harmlessly through the creatures. Physical barriers delayed them only briefly. Even the most advanced containment fields failed to hold them. These parasites seemed to exist partially in another dimension, making conventional defenses useless. "Sir," his science officer called out, her voice trembling. "Analysis shows they're not just consuming matter. They're absorbing information, knowledge, memories, everything that makes us who we are." Within hours, New Haven fell silent. The colony, once a shining example of Federation prosperity, became a barren wasteland. But the Void Eaters weren't finished. They merged into a massive, swirling vortex and launched themselves toward the next colony world. Over the next 2 months, 2 more major colonies suffered the same fate. Billions of Federation citizens fled in terror. The peaceful species that made up the Federation had no concept of warfare, no understanding of combat tactics. Their civilization had evolved past the need for weapons of war, and now that choice was proving fatal. Hejin's report to the Federation Council was grim. "Our peaceful nature, our advanced technology, our enlightened civilization, none of it matters against these creatures. We can't negotiate with them. We can't contain them. We can't stop them. 3 worlds are already lost, and more will follow." The council chambers erupted in panic. Thousands of years of peace had left them unprepared for a threat of this magnitude. Their ships could cross galaxies, but they couldn't fight. Their science could reshape planets, but it couldn't protect them. As Hejin watched the recordings of the attacks, a thought kept nagging at him. Somewhere in the quarantine zone around Earth, a species existed that hadn't evolved past violence. A species that still remembered how to fight, how to kill, how to survive against predators. Perhaps, he thought, our greatest fear might become our only hope. But suggesting an alliance with the quarantined humans would be controversial at best, heretical at worst. Yet as reports of new Void Eater sightings came in, Hejin knew they were running out of options. The Federation, in all its wisdom and advancement, faced extinction at the hands of creatures they couldn't comprehend or combat. Their peace had become their weakness, and their civilization stood on the brink of collapse. Little did they know, their salvation would come from the very species they had judged too dangerous to join their society. The emergency council chamber hummed with nervous energy as thousands of Federation representatives gathered. The room's crystalline walls reflected their worried faces, a stark contrast to the usual calm that pervaded these halls. Council member Sun Ma-cho stood at the central podium, her normally composed demeanor showing signs of strain. "We have lost 3 colony worlds," she began, her voice echoing through the vast chamber. "The Void Eaters advance unchecked. Our peaceful ways, which have served us for millennia, now lead us to extinction." She paused, knowing her next words would spark controversy. "I propose we lift the quarantine on Earth and seek human assistance." The chamber erupted in chaos. Elder Ta-Wan Kang, his aged face twisted in displeasure, rose from his seat. "Madness. You suggest we invite killers into our civilization. These humans are quarantined for a reason. Their violent nature makes them too dangerous." Sun Mai activated a hologram showing the devastation of New Haven Colony. More dangerous than this, the images of destruction silenced the chamber. "We labeled humans as predators, but that's exactly what we need now. We face predators who consume entire worlds. Perhaps we need predators of our own to fight them." Ambassador Min-Soo Park, known for his diplomatic skills, stepped forward. "I've studied Earth extensively. Yes, humans are violent, but they're also protective. They fight hardest when defending others. Their history shows countless examples of them risking their lives to save strangers." The debate raged for hours. Federation species, evolved beyond violence, struggled with the concept of intentionally seeking out those they had deemed too dangerous to contact. But the Void Eaters left them no choice. "Look at their entertainment," Sun Mei continued, displaying human movies and books. "They constantly imagine scenarios of fighting against overwhelming odds. They prepare for threats we never considered possible. While we evolved past violence, they evolved to channel it." Elder Kang made his final argument. "If we let them in, they'll never leave. We'll be introducing predators into our midst. What happens after the Void Eaters are gone? What happens when the humans turn on us?" Sun Mi's response was simple. "If we don't act now, there won't be an after to worry about." The vote was closer than anyone expected, but desperation won over fear. The Federation Council approved lifting Earth's quarantine. Ambassador Min-Soo Park was chosen to make first contact, his expertise in human culture making him the ideal candidate. As his ship prepared to breach the quarantine zone, Min-Soo reviewed his mission briefing. He would have to convince humans to help the very civilization that had judged them too dangerous to join. He would have to appeal to both their protective instincts and their desire for adventure. "The fear of humans that led us to quarantine them," he thought, "might be the very thing that saves us all." His ship's engines hummed as they approached Earth's solar system, the quarantine beacons deactivating for the first time in 3 years. The fate of the Federation now rested on the response of a species they had feared and isolated. Min-Soo could only hope that humanity's violent nature would prove to be their salvation rather than their doom. As Earth grew larger in his view screen, he prepared to make history, the first Federation citizen to officially contact the dangerous, but perhaps necessary, human race. The automated beacons that had kept humanity isolated now stood silent, marking not a boundary of quarantine, but a gateway of hope. The Federation's future would depend on whether their fear of humanity's violent nature had been wisdom or a terrible mistake. The massive United Defense Force fleet dropped out of hyperspace on the edges of Federation space. Admiral Yoon Hee Choi stood on the bridge of the UDF flagship Defiance, watching as hundreds of human warships took up defensive positions. The Federation aliens observed with a mixture of fear and hope as humanity brought its full military might to bear. "All ships report ready, Admiral," her executive officer announced. The fleet carried over 50,000 Marines, led by the decorated Colonel Jin Woo Park. Their primitive projectile weapons and explosive ordnance had been modified based on initial scans of the Void Eaters. The first engagement came sooner than expected. A Void Eater swarm attacked a Federation refugee convoy near the Centauri outpost. Colonel Park's Marines deployed immediately, their dropships screaming through space toward the threat. "Remember your training," Park's voice crackled over the comm as his troops prepared for combat. "These things may be alien, but they're still predators, and we know how to hunt predators." The Federation observers watched in amazement as human Marines engaged the Void Eaters. Instead of running or hiding, the humans attacked aggressively. Their modified weapons fired rounds containing electromagnetic pulses and plasma cores, disrupting the parasites' dimensional shifting abilities. "Push forward. Don't let them regroup," Park ordered as his troops advanced through the colony's corridors. The humans moved with a coordination and aggression that stunned the peaceful Federation species. Where their advanced technology had failed, human combat instincts and tactical thinking succeeded. Admiral Choi coordinated the space battle with equal effectiveness. Human ships performed maneuvers the Federation had never considered, using aggressive tactics that seemed reckless but proved devastatingly effective. The fleet's weapons had been modified to create overlapping fields of fire, trapping the Void Eaters in killing zones. "They're adapting to our tactics," Park reported during the battle's third hour. "Just like Earth predators would." He ordered his troops to switch to secondary strategies, displaying the tactical flexibility that made humans such successful hunters. The Federation citizens watched in awe as human Marines worked together seamlessly, protecting civilians while engaging the enemy. Their violent nature, once feared, now served as a shield for the peaceful Federation species. Within 6 hours, the Void Eater swarm had been completely destroyed. The humans suffered casualties but achieved what the Federation had thought impossible, a decisive victory against the parasites. "This is just the beginning," Admiral Choi announced to the Federation Council. "We'll need to adapt our tactics as they learn, but we understand how to fight an evolving enemy. It's what humans do best." The Federation's fear of human violence transformed into appreciation for human protection. They watched as more UDF fleets arrived, bringing with them the predatory instincts and combat expertise that their peaceful civilization had evolved past. Colonel Park's after-action report became required reading for Federation leaders. "The Void Eaters are dangerous, but they've never faced an enemy that evolved specifically to hunt other predators. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons. It's our understanding of predator-prey relationships and our ability to shift between roles as needed." As human forces spread throughout Federation space, setting up defensive perimeters and hunting down Void Eater swarms, the aliens began to understand why Earth's quarantine had been both their greatest mistake and their ultimate salvation. The very nature that had made humans too dangerous to join galactic society now made them the perfect defenders of it. The primitive human tactics continued to prove effective as more battles were won. Admiral Choi's fleet became a symbol of hope rather than fear, and Colonel Park's Marines were welcomed as heroes on every Federation world they protected. Humanity had answered the call for help with characteristic determination, bringing their predatory nature to bear against an enemy that threatened not just their own species, but all sentient life in the galaxy. Major Hai-Jin Kim stood before a holographic display of the latest Void Eater attack patterns, her keen eyes analyzing every detail. 3 months of fighting had taught humanity much about their enemy, and she was determined to turn that knowledge into victory. "The parasites aren't just feeding," she explained to Federation scientist Du Yan Baek. "They're learning, adapting, evolving. Just like any predator species." She pointed to the shifting patterns in the display, "but that makes them predictable to those who understand predator behavior." Du Yan watched in fascination as Hai-Jin's strike teams implemented her new combat doctrines. The human soldiers moved like coordinated hunting packs, using the Void Eater's own predatory nature against them. They set traps, created false targets, and exploited the parasites' feeding patterns. "Your species understands this on an instinctive level," Du Yan noted, recording the effectiveness of each new tactic. The way you think about combat, about hunting, it's unprecedented in Federation history. Hai-Jin's most innovative strategy involved using the parasite's dimensional shifting abilities against them. Her teams deployed specialized energy fields that forced the Void Eaters to remain solid, making them vulnerable to concentrated fire. In nature, every predator has weaknesses, she explained during a tactical briefing. The key is finding them and exploiting them mercilessly. The Federation observers flinched at her choice of words, but couldn't argue with the results. Strike Team Alpha, led by Captain Song Min, demonstrated the new tactics in the defense of Haven Colony. They lured a Void Eater swarm into a carefully prepared killing zone, using decoy energy signatures as bait. When the parasites took the bait, they found themselves trapped between overlapping fields of fire. Like fishing, Song Min reported afterward, just with bigger bait and much nastier fish. The Federation had never considered using their enemies' hunting instincts against them. They watched in amazement as human forces repeatedly outmaneuvered the supposedly superior alien threat. Du Yan's research team documented everything. The way humans instinctively understood predator-prey relationships, their ability to think like their enemy, their capacity to adapt tactics mid-battle based on the enemy's reactions. It was a masterclass in combat evolution. We're not just fighting them, Hai-Jin explained to her teams. We're hunting them, and humans have been apex predators since we first walked upright. Her words resonated with every soldier, tapping into something primal and powerful in human nature. The turning point came during the Battle of New Singapore. Hai-Jin's strike teams, using her refined tactics, eliminated an entire Void Eater swarm with minimal casualties. The Federation finally understood that humanity's violent past had created perfect warriors for this crisis. Your primitive nature, Du Yan admitted to Hai-Jin afterward, has proven to be far more sophisticated than we ever imagined. The Federation's advanced technology, combined with human combat instincts, was becoming an unstoppable force. As more victories followed, Hai-Jin continued refining her techniques. Each engagement provided new data, new understanding of their enemy's behavior. The Void Eaters were learning and adapting, but so were the humans. And humans had millennia of experience as both predator and prey. The Federation's initial fear of human violence transformed into respect for human protection. They saw how the same instincts that made humans dangerous also made them formidable defenders. Major Kim's tactical innovations weren't just winning battles, they were reshaping the Federation's understanding of what it meant to be civilized. Sometimes, Hai-Jin told Du Yan during a quiet moment between battles, the ability to fight is what makes peace possible. Looking at the stars where her teams patrolled, she added, we never lost our predator nature because deep down, we knew someday we'd need it again. Su Jin-yoon sat in her office aboard the Federation station Unity, surrounded by cultural artifacts from both human and alien worlds. As the lead cultural attaché, her mission was to bridge the gap between humanity's warrior nature and the Federation's peaceful civilization. A live feed showed Captain Jae-hyun Song's crew in action. His ship, the Mercy's Shield, had just intercepted a Void Eater attack on a refugee convoy. But it wasn't the fighting that held Soo-jin's attention. It was what happened afterward. Human medics rushed into damaged Federation ships, carrying wounded aliens to safety. Marines who moments ago had been fierce warriors now gently helped children and elderly Federation citizens. Captain Song himself carried an injured alien child to the medical bay, speaking soft words of comfort. See, Soo-jin explained to the watching Federation officials. This is the part of humanity you never understood. Our capacity for violence exists alongside our drive to protect and nurture. The Federation observers watched in amazement as human crews worked tirelessly to repair refugee ships, share supplies, and provide medical care. The same hands that wielded weapons now bandaged wounds and offered comfort. Your people called us killers, Soo-jin said, but you never saw the whole picture. Humans fight hardest when protecting others. Our predator nature isn't just about violence. It's about defending our pack, our family, which now includes you. Captain Song's crew became living proof of this duality. After successfully defending the refugee fleet, they escorted the damaged ships to safety, even giving up their own quarters to accommodate displaced families. The Federation citizens aboard experienced firsthand the complexity of human nature. They fought like demons to protect us, one Federation elder admitted, then showed gentleness I didn't think possible from such warriors. This understanding began spreading throughout Federation space as more stories emerged of human protectors. Su Jin organized cultural exchange programs, bringing Federation citizens aboard human ships and stations. They watched Marines training, then saw those same Marines reading stories to alien children in refugee centers. They observed tactical planning sessions, then joined humans in sharing meals and celebrations. The Mercy Shield became famous after a particularly dramatic rescue. Captain Song's crew fought through a Void Eater swarm to reach a stranded Federation colony ship. Instead of immediately retreating to safety, they spent 3 days repairing the colony ship's engines while defending against repeated attacks. Why risk yourselves for us? A Federation engineer asked Song during the rescue. The captain's response became legendary throughout Federation space. Because protecting others is what makes us human. Our strength isn't just in our ability to fight. It's in our choice of what to fight for. Su Jin documented countless similar stories. Human medical teams working around the clock to save Federation lives. Marines sharing their rations with refugee children. Engineers teaching Federation crews how to repair and modify their ships for better protection. The Federation's fear of human violence gradually transformed into appreciation for human complexity. They began to understand that the same instincts that made humans dangerous also drove them to protect, heal, and sacrifice for others. Perhaps, Su Jin wrote in her Cultural Impact Report, the Federation needed to learn that true civilization isn't about eliminating violence, but about choosing when to use strength and when to show mercy. Humans never forgot this balance, and now we're teaching it to the galaxy. The barriers between humans and Federation species slowly crumbled. Where once there was fear, now there was understanding. The predators had become protectors, and the galaxy was changing because of it. General Ji-hoon Park stood on the bridge of the combined Human Federation flagship, Unity's Dawn, watching the final battle unfold. 5 years of war against the Void Eaters had led to this moment. The last major parasite swarm had been cornered in the Rigel system. All ships, execute final protocol, he commanded. The massive fleet moved in perfect coordination, human warships alongside Federation vessels. What had begun as an uneasy alliance had evolved into something remarkable. Federation ships now carried human tactical officers, while human vessels boasted Federation technology. The last battle proved the most challenging. The remaining Void Eaters had adapted and evolved, but so had the joint forces. Human combat instincts combined with Federation science created strategies the parasites couldn't counter. The battle raged for 3 days, but the outcome was never in doubt. As the final Void Eater swarm was eliminated, cheers erupted across both human and Federation channels. Sung Min Choi, selected to be humanity's first Federation Council representative, watched from the council chambers as the victory was announced. Today marks not just the end of a threat, she addressed the council, but the beginning of a new understanding between our peoples. The Federation representatives, who had once feared human violence, now stood to applaud their former quarantine subjects. The integration of Earth into the Federation happened swiftly. The quarantine beacons were dismantled in a ceremony attended by both human and Federation leaders. Where they once marked a boundary of fear, they now became monuments to change. General Park's final report became required reading in both human and Federation academies. Our victory came not from eliminating our differences, but from learning to value them. The Federation's peace and humanity's warrior spirit proved to be complementary, not contradictory. Federation citizens began visiting Earth in large numbers, fascinated by the planet they had once feared. They found not just warriors, but artists, scholars, and dreamers. Humans, in turn, spread throughout Federation space, bringing their unique blend of protective instinct and innovative thinking to their new galactic home. Human combat units were reformed into joint defense forces, teaching Federation species not just how to fight, but when and why to fight. The Federation's peaceful nature tempered humanity's aggressive instincts, while human protective instincts gave the Federation the strength to defend its ideals. We quarantined humans because we feared their violent nature, a Federation elder admitted during the Earth integration ceremony. We never understood that sane nature would make them our greatest defenders. Sung Min Choi's first address to the Federation Council became historic. Humans never lost our predator nature because deep in our hearts, we knew the galaxy might need protectors one day. We kept our strength not to conquer, but to defend. Not to destroy, but to preserve. The transformation was complete. Humanity's reputation shifted from dangerous killers to trusted protectors, the very qualities that had led to their quarantine. Their strength, their fighting spirit, their predatory instincts had saved galactic civilization. By 2165, the combined Human Federation civilization had entered a new golden age. They maintained their military readiness while pursuing peace, understanding that true strength lay not in the absence of violence, but in the wisdom to know when to fight and when to extend a helping hand.